Hi. How's it
Farzad,
going?
Farzad. Oh, I've been looking forward to this.
Me
Thank
too.
you so much that we met each other on Twitter and
Yeah,
made this happen.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited to have you on as well. For those who may not know who Joe is, so Joe is the founder of Wikispeed. He has also published a book called Scrum Master. He is a holder of multiple world records. He is also a TEDx former speaker, which is I saw that video. I really have a lot of questions about that too because I'm really curious to see how that experience was. And obviously a former Tesla employee as well. And I'm just so excited to talk to you about really a lot of different topics, not just not Tesla specifically, but like all the different things and how you think about them and so on and so forth. But yeah, I'm very excited to have you on. It's gonna be a
I've
blast.
got some topics I'm really excited to ask you about too,
Sure.
Farzad. So I hope this conversation does a lot of going both ways.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. First of all, so I noticed you're in Hawaii time. How's the weather down there? Because over here got a little cold in Austin. We got a cold front coming through. How's it going over there?
Oh man, it got all the way down to 72.
Oh, geez.
Um, it was just brutal. Yeah. I mean, you could still swim. The ocean's the same temperature, so
Right.
surfing's fine. But when you get out, I mean, you had to use a towel.
Sure, sure. Wow. Oh my goodness. That's just terrible. Sounds awful. Is that so? Is that something you like to do? Is that surfing? Is that part of like your sort of your part of the hobbies? Is that something you picked up recently, or I'm curious to hear.
I really like to try to stay fit.
Okay.
It's a passion, and surfing is one of the things I rotate in. And I
Mm-hmm.
currently have zero skill, but that makes
Mm-hmm.
it super fun because then you have the brain tired too afterwards. Like
Sure.
a lot of people might not know, to catch a wave, there's actually things you have to do. You don't just like sit there and then the wave carries you.
Okay.
Uh, not for any distance. You actually have to catch it, and that can be aided by having a beginner board like I use.
Okay.
But it's actually a real body and mind technique.
Okay.
So yeah, I rotate that in with other stuff I do for fitness, like kung fu and weightlifting and running, and then I really like ocean swimming. Is a lot more of it.
That's great. Do you find that sort of that fitness? Because so one of the things that's really impressive about you is that your long list of accomplishments, right? So I was looking at your LinkedIn and the different things you've accomplished. Authoring a book. Really being a CEO of a company, Wikispeed, and other things too. Do you feel like fitness is almost a requirement for you to be able to achieve all those things? I'm curious to hear how you think about that.
Wow. So even more so, I was really lucky to get into consulting, which is kind of a racket.
Hmm.
I mean, there's some good uses for it, but a lot of the time it's kind of a racket.
Mm.
But the awesome part about consulting is you see a lot really fast,
Mm.
and you get to talk with sometimes three different Fortune 50 CEOs in their companies and their staff in a
Hmm.
week,
Hmm.
definitely in a month. And then also startups that are nowhere near the Fortune 50, but have a really interesting idea.
Hmm.
And I do think fitness is incredibly important to keep your energy up, but there's other ways to do that too. So to perform at a high level, not just me, but looking at other people too. Like I worked for Bill Gates, and then I consulted to the leadership team at Amazon. And so I got to see these people,
Hmm.
and they were either fit or really high energy and cheerful. And they could do that and be actually obese if they just crammed themselves with candy all the time. Now that burns out and your career crumbles at some point when your health gives way. But in any case, what actually seems to work for business is, yeah, if you're grumpy and low energy, it's very difficult to have charisma that makes people really want to work with you and
Right.
learn from you and understand what you think is the most important and the risk. Is how I believe that works.
Right.
That
Yeah.
said, I think fitness solves for that, and in a healthier way. So
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah. So I think like that was one thing that really became obvious to me because my fitness journey has been sort of a little bit newer for me. I was always the kind of person that was caffeine. Caffeine is the thing that's going to get me to where I need to be. And then once I really started focusing on and by no means am I fit. Like if I were to stand up, you're going to see me be like, oh my God, this guy like walks like 4 minutes a day. You know, that's the kind of thing you might see. But there is a noticeable change to energy levels. And then I found that I didn't even need those stimulants like caffeine anymore. Like if it was just something that I committed to, and even if it's like walking half an hour a day at just a regular walking speed, I think it makes a material difference to that. And like if I think about my time at Tesla, for example, right? Like at the beginning of my time there, I didn't work out. And then while I was in there, say after the first year or so, I'm like, okay, so the caffeine thing's unsustainable, you know, because I'm already feeling like the anxiety is starting to go up a notch because the job is so demanding already. And then I'm like, okay, so if I want to be able to be here for more than 9 months, okay, I need to figure out how to change my lifestyle. And so that I started working out. I'm like, you know what? People are telling me to work out. People are telling me that, you know, take care of your body. The body is the thing that's really going to allow you to make accomplishments, right? And then once I really started investing my time in actually taking care of myself from a body perspective, it made such a difference. And I can't even explain it, you know, and I think it's dramatically underrated. And a lot of people, I think there's a lot to it, you know, and of course, folks are able, you know, folks are free to sort of approach their life however they want. But for me, I remember that fitness was such a life changing thing for me because it really did make a difference. It made a huge, huge difference. And I don't want to sit here and tell everybody should work out. Like everybody can live their life however they want. But for me, it made a big difference. Just kind of riff off of what you were saying, because personally, I could really connect with that. And it's just really like, man, it made a tremendous difference. Especially at my time at Tesla, which I'm curious to hear from your side as well. Your time at Tesla. What was, you know, there's a couple interviews you did already, both of which were super fascinating, by the way. You know, thank you for really giving the time for those, and obviously sitting here with me as well. I'm super appreciative of the time and being able to sit down and talk to you. What was the thing that really surprised you the most? Like the thing that just blew your mind, you know, reflecting back.
There's a bunch of us now who've started talking about what we experienced. And
Yeah.
man, I'm sorry to say it's the same thing as what everyone else has said.
Yeah.
The speed.
Yeah.
I have been in the majority of Fortune 50 companies because of the consulting career. So I have a basis for comparison. Mm-hmm. And I've been in Toyota, I've been in Nissan, I've been in Ford Europe and Ford US. I've consulted with Volkswagen and Daimler and BMW too. Every other company I've ever been in, ever, of every type, feels like it's moving in slow motion compared to Tesla. And finally, I felt like it was normal. I finally felt like someone turned the slow-mo button off and it was natural. And that felt so comfortable. It wasn't frustrating. And that will forever reset my expectation of what a company can be or should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would agree there. It's almost like, I always wonder, like, how hard is it going to be for the other manufacturers, so like Ford, Volkswagen, GM, like how? Yeah, because when I think about it, is okay. So if you want to compete with Tesla, and I've heard you say this before, and really the entire Tesla community talks about this all the time, but like you have to be able to keep up with what they do, right? And that agile methodology, which by the way, here's an interesting point. I didn't hear of agile until I started watching your videos. And one of the fascinating things that you said, I think you were talking with Best in Tesla, the really awesome host there. I think you mentioned my, which by the way, you pronounced my name better than I pronounced my own name, FYI. So good job there. Well done. The thing that really surprised me is when you said, so I basically described, you know, you referenced one of my original videos, and you referenced and said, you know, Farzad, even if he doesn't know it, he is operating in agile, right? He's operating in this environment where you're really trying to you're spending the way I understand agile, because I'm not an agile expert, but the way I understand it is like you're spending the minimum amount of time in the most efficient way to get to your end result by trying to really create a cycle of constant review. Like you're constantly reviewing your steps. And that's sort of how I interpret it, right? And I think what Tesla does incredibly well is that everyone's taught that without having to like like do agile, for example. Like everybody's just, it's almost like that first principles approach that was really shocking to me afterwards, because I'm like, oh my God, there's an entire industry that is created around this concept. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. Like how would a current company, like a GM or a Ford that has layers and layers and layers and layers of things built into that company, is that even possible? Like how do you perceive that? I'm really curious to hear your perspective.
It's totally possible. And I think there's about a 1% chance that any of those players are actually going to do it, because it threatens all their sunk costs. I mean, if you bought the NUMMI plant, a former GM plant, and after that Toyota plant, and made it a Tesla plant, which Elon did, I mean, that's the mothership, that's Fremont, California, you have to gut the plant and completely reset up the fixtures, the electricity, the plumbing to be this different flow, because it's not a single linear line. They're not trying to do single one-piece continuous flow. That'd be way too slow for the pace of innovation.
Right.
So you have to gut the factory. Well, imagine Ford saying, let's gut our transmission plant, like just one of the transmission plants, much less let's gut all the plants.
Right.
The sunk costs are too great. So instead, most of these companies will continue to do sub-optimization, to do lean Kaizen, to optimize the single one-piece continuous flow, which is not compatible with the pace of innovation Tesla is doing. And you see it still happening. Toyota just recently announced, 30 electric car models by 2030, and they're all rendered with black windshields and no interiors, because they want to make them, right? They're viewing it as a production problem. Meanwhile, they still can't get battery packs over 40 kilowatt hours that don't have thermal runaway after long-term use. And that's an innovation problem. That's not a single one-piece continuous flow problem. And how do you solve that and introduce it quickly and make upgrades to that in the line? They're not willing to. But the good news is they could, because as Elon says, the goal is to advance the advent of sustainable transportation. And no matter who makes excellent electric cars, that's winning. The goal is excellent electric cars. So the good news is anyone could make excellent electric cars, innovating as fast as Tesla. But it would be very different company policies than they have now. I mean, try to get the not a handbook approved in Toyota.
Yeah, for real.
Not a chance. Not a chance. The command control hierarchy is too strong. So you have rules in the not a handbook saying you can talk to anyone. You can talk to Elon. And in fact, it's your responsibility to do it if you see a sub-optimization. That's not allowed in Toyota. That's super not allowed. You can't talk to your boss's boss. You'd become a window person. They don't fire you. It's a socially, politically protected organization, but they give you a job with no responsibilities for the rest of your life, staring out a window. So it's super shameful, but you still get a salary. In that way, Toyota's really good. It's basically a pension plan funded by the government that happens to make cars. And that is beautiful and elegant for what it is. But what it can't do in that model is have a rapid pace of innovation. So you have this set of policy changes and structural layout changes that leadership doesn't want in most of these companies, because they don't want someone from the floor talking directly to them. They think they're too important. There's a caste system. Those leaders use a different bathroom than everyone else. They have a different elevator, so they don't even have to talk to any of these other people. They have lunch totally separately. They live in a different world, and they want that. Well, unless you want to work on the factory floor and sleep on the factory floor, like Elon does, the not a handbook will not be approved. The company policies required to actually do, I'll say agile, but whatever you want to call it, won't be approved. Then the factory flow, the design flow, the processing flow, the materials handling flow, which I actually have some questions for you about. Thanks.
Yeah.
Would never be approved because of the sunk costs. There are separate departments in these organizations, and this is normal, which shocks me, but it's normal. There's separate departments in these other organizations to minimize cost. So they sweep in and say, but our Excel spreadsheet says you're not minimizing the cost of this bolt.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that was the bolt available on Amazon that could be delivered today, so we could ship this car today. Right. That's the point. because you're factoring cost of delay in, whether you even take the time to calculate it. Cost of delay almost always wins.
Right.
So erring on the side of speed is smart anyway. So the good news is every company could. They would replace their current policies with not an employee handbook. They would gut their factories and set them up as basically cells. It would look like a risk board, right? Which is closer to the movable layout in most of the Tesla plants.
Yep.
And maybe 1% of companies will do that. Maybe. That would be my dream, because please let me set out my dream, my wish for the world is that there's a million companies innovating as fast as the Musk companies.
Right.
Man, I would love to jump out of bed and live in that world.
Yeah.
So that is why I do continue to consult and write books and teach classes, because that's what I want.
Yeah.
I don't know how many established companies are going to do it. Maybe I'm going to have to work with self-funded startups mostly, but maybe some of these monoliths will do it. They could.
Yeah, that's sort of my concern. Like what you described is that there's a 1% chance that the established folks will actually take the effort to rework their entire model to become what Agile or what Tesla is able to execute. The other 99% that don't, what is that going to cost to the economy? What is going to that cost to the rest of the industry? Because obviously, eventually, if you want to keep up, you're going to have to do it, right? So it's either an existing company or a new entrant. They're going to have to work in that sort of same level of how they execute, right? But that sort of transitional period scares the hell out of me. It really does, because it's going to cause so much upheaval. And I'm curious to hear, have you thought about that? Like, I'm curious to see how you think about that.
What I don't want, and I think most people in Tesla and Neuralink and SpaceX and Boring Company, and I think Elon doesn't want, is mass unemployment.
Right.
So I don't think any of us want Daimler to go out of business.
Absolutely.
And have to lay all those people off.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us want Toyota or Ford or GM or Stellantis to go out of business and lay all those people off, or even shut down one plant and lay off everyone on even one shift. I don't think that's what any of us want. Well, then what do you do if the products, basically, if people are still making flip phones? What do you do for a factory full of people who are still making flip phones and all the designers who are still designing flip phones? Or they're trying to design smartphone version 1 now. You're so far behind the curve, and it's the first smartphone you tried to design. What do you do?
Yeah.
And that's a board of directors level decision, and they've got to pick. And unfortunately, a lot of these boards currently are saying, we've got a few more years of high profit. Let's extract that profit from the company. Let's buy more boats. Let's have more fun. And then when the company goes down, we've got our backup plan and golden parachute. And Musk just talked about that, and I really appreciate it. It made more sense to me why Musk behaves financially the way Musk does. Musk says, I think the captain should go down with the ship. If the company fails, the owner, the founder, the president should be bankrupt. And Musk said, I don't have any offshore accounts. I believe him. That's a choice. Some people could choose not to believe what Musk says. But if you do actually take what Musk says directly and at face value, it does make an enormous amount of sense.
Yep.
And Musk says, I don't have offshore accounts. I don't have a backup plan. I live extremely simply. He doesn't wear a Gucci belt. Right. Or Fendi shoes. Right. It's not. It's
such a paradigm shift, It's such a paradigm shift to how businesses are captained and run. It's the next. It just feels like the next. Then it's the evolution. It's the evolution of what a workforce is, what a company is, and it just so happens that Tesla is and Elon are leading the way. And it's like, sorry, I don't know if you were going to say something there. Yeah.
I was going to agree with you and say, I don't think it's new. If you look back to a time before I was alive, so I'm getting at this from books and black and white video reels, it looks like World War II production all over the world. So I'm not being nationalist. I mean, what's a nation? I didn't pick where I was born.
Right.
But all over the world, people did incredibly rapid innovations in production. And design was at the point of production, and supply chain inconsistency. Wow. I mean, it was weirder than now. Your supply boat doesn't even necessarily get stuck in the canal. It might have been torpedoed, right? So
that's true.
we thought we had aluminum. Guess what? Now we have tin.
Yeah.
Make it work, right? I mean, talk about supply chain inconsistency.
Yeah.
And these people did amazing. Talk about super out of the box thinking. Human hair as insulation for submarine sound deadening. I mean, crazy, actually really smart. I mean, that's organic and renewable products. Yep. Humans as sheep. Yeah. Sure. As long as they're willing participants.
Right. Exactly. I was going to say,
they weren't, that's not where I'm taking this. That's not what I'm talking about. From a production aspect, humans know how to do this. And if we look at some of the innovation that jumped into public industry from the same people after World War II, you had supersonic commercial transport, which we don't now. You had people go to the moon, which we can't now. You had, and those are not from the same country, by the way. So I'm not trying to be nationalist.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is humans know how to do this. And then people started optimizing for something else. They started optimizing for entertainment, basically, like optimizing for Netflix. And I don't think Netflix is evil, but man, if I have a choice between going to the gym and watching Netflix, I'll go to the gym. And if I have a choice between updating a car design in production and making an improvement that's meaningful or watching Netflix, I'll do the first one. And there's a lot of people who don't. They're like, when's my shift end so I can go whatever it is? And that talks about how unwalk up simple, unengaging, uninspiring a lot of companies have become. And I do think Tesla has fixed that. I mean, I had never a dull moment inside the company. Same. That brings me to one of my questions I really want to ask you about. Why? How? What's your perspective on why it's engaging and fun?
Yeah.
Because you're really working. I mean, you are really pumping it. Why is it engaging as fun? I felt like I was playing Legos all day.
Yeah.
Really good Legos. I loved it. Why?
Likewise. Yeah. I mean, for me, so you hit on it. There's so much purpose behind the mission that you know that you're working for something that truly matters and makes a difference. Right. So that's one aspect. So, every single second you spend in that company, you at least feel like you're part of moving the world towards somewhere better. So that in itself is already huge. So, that's one thing. The second one is for the kind of person that I am, I love, I don't want to use chaotic in a chaotic environment. I like a fast-paced, where the same day is never the same, right? Each day is never the same. I like it when there's constant movement. There are new challenges to hit. So that was another one for me. And I'm sure for you as well, the way you described it, it was very similar from that perspective as well. But then the third one, and this is one I think that as more of us come out, to the front and speak more about this, the people, the sort of talent that Tesla is able to pull together because of its prestige and because of the mission. There's so much like-mindedness behind the purpose, that it makes it really easy to go into work and say, oh, I'm really passionate about, what we're doing here, what Elon's doing as a company. Whereas, and I'm not going to use my sort of previous experience because my previous experience before Tesla was also really, really good. But I worked for a pet food distributor, but it's, and I love pets and I love, to keep them alive, but it's hard to be passionate in the same way for pet food as you would be for advancing the world to sustainable transport, right? And I don't know how many companies out there have that mission and have a leader that's so, has done such a great job encapsulating the essence of what that means into a company that allows its workers to be like, yep, I'm super motivated. Let's go after that, right? So like those three things are the big ones. It's just the mission, the type of work that we did, just the constant challenges that we had to face and really figure out how to resolve. and then you're surrounded by a bunch of freaking geniuses. I felt like an idiot. And that's what's, and honestly, that was one of my favorite things, is that I felt like a dummy, or surrounded by these incredible, talented folks that were so willing to give their feedback and to help you. One of my best friends I met working at Tesla. One of my best friends now, and I was there for 4 years, and he was my boss once upon a time, and he was extremely demanding, but I learned so much from him, and he was able to learn from me as well, from my previous experiences and everything. We created this incredible bond, and it just feels like Tesla gives a very unique. I'm just so thankful. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. I'm just incredibly thankful, and I sound like a fanboy. I sound like a crazy person, maybe, to some people. I've been following the company since 2012, 2013, but hearing you talk about what you did before, like about how, we used to be this way in a sense back in World War II. We were tied to these like very fundamental, important things. And Tesla feels like that as well, but it feels so rare. And I think that's why it made it so attractive and made me have so much fun there. But let me know if that answers your question. That was a long one, sorry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it brought up a bunch of things I want to say.
Yeah.
But no, let me please ask you my most important question.
Okay.
let me please present this to you. If another company wanted to become as fast at innovating in a meaningful and good way, wanted to be as good in all the dimensions, as fun to work, as productive, making things people really love, whether they're a new company or an existing company, what tips, advice, or must-haves or must-don'ts would you say?
Yeah. I think there's many, right? But I always think of it from a person's perspective, like a people's perspective, a humanity perspective, right? And I heard you talk about this before, and it resonated with me a lot as well. But like the flatness of the company is, I think, one of the most important things about it, because you don't feel like you're playing politics. You feel like you're just getting stuff done. I almost cursed there. I was so close. I almost did too, because it's my channel. I could curse in my own channel, but we'll see. We'll keep it PG for this one. That to me feels incredibly important. Call it flat structure, call it a lack of trying to be super hierarchical, call it whatever you want. Just empower people. Empower the people, and then invest a tremendous amount of time and energy getting the best possible people to join your company. But that becomes extremely difficult to do if your mission for that company is not honest, or it's just driven by, well, we're just here to make money, right? We're just here to do this or that. I think that's a barrier for a lot of companies from a people's perspective. It's I'm not sure if I would ever want to join. Like, I don't know how much talent would theoretically go to a place where it's just about money, and it almost gets like, you could have a lot of different companies that have that, and you could have like 1% of the population goes to this company, 0.5% goes to this one. But I feel like something that Tesla does incredibly well, again, is that it's never about the money. It's about the mission. It's about the mission. And then we're going to spend as much time humanly possible to hire the best and the brightest and empower them and trust them to get after it. That's what I perceive. I'm curious to hear yours. Like, what do you think it is?
Man, you hit on many topics that are so passionate to me. I think another one is, oh wow, how to say this the right way. A lot of companies, if you see a really handsome or really beautiful person, they're in or on their way to some leadership track. I never experienced that in Tesla, ever. Sometimes I saw someone who was inordinately big, tall, presence, handsome, or beautiful. They were on the line, period. Right? There was no, oh, you're the special cast. So we want you doing the special work. I never experienced that. I think that's super important. I went to so-and-so school, so I should be in X position. I never experienced that. I worked with a lot of people that went to awesome schools and a lot of people that didn't, and they were working together on the same teams. And this brings me to the inverse of that point that I think is super important. I remember one of the most skillful, productive, best mentor people I worked with. They were in their 70s. They were an ex-convict. They were ugly. I don't think anyone would have, on the surface, considered them the best and the brightest and the lucky hire. They were amazing. And I ran into situations similar to that more often than not. Tesla is a place, in my experience, where everyone gets a chance, and who you were 10 minutes ago has nothing to do with what you're asked and supported to do now. And you can reinvent yourself all the time and forever. And it's not like, well, that's Judy, and Judy always XYZ. I never experienced that. Whereas a lot of other companies I did. And I do think anyone could get a job somewhere in Tesla. And the cool thing is, once you're hired, once you're in, you can do anything.
It's so true.
So no matter what the job description was, like, go for the absolute baddest sounding role and get it. And then you can do anything, right? If you want to.
That is so true. Yeah, it's the humanity. It's the humanity of that company. I don't think folks truly understand, and like I think that sort of highlights it, right? It's because it's almost like, and I wanted to ask about this too because you brought it up, but like I wonder how much of that thing that you described that Tesla doesn't do, like the whole you look good, you look like a manager, you look like you should have a better thing, so let's get you there. I wonder how much of that is human nature, and how much of that is that learned improper practices. You know what I'm saying? Like how much is that is our businesses just since I don't know, I'm 34, I barely know anything, I don't know history that well, to be completely honest. But like I'm curious, like is it like how much of that hasn't been learned because of very naive incorrect reasons, and how much of it is just human beings, it's just how we work. And then the beauty behind Elon and what that company has done is that it's merit. It's just, are you good at what you do, and are you going to be good in this situation to be able to fix this thing? And the way that they empower you to get after it is completely and absolutely nuts. And it's so funny you bring that up because I was fortunate enough to be in a role where I was able to hire a bunch of people, not just for my team, but for across every single really material handlers. I helped hire engineers. I helped hire programmers, right? I mean, because, I was connected to the folks and they trusted me to help them, conduct interviews and things like that. And that was a common thread across every single person that I ever interviewed or ever saw someone else interview, was that it was always merit. It wasn't always, well, this person looks good, so let's get them on. It was always merit-based. What can they bring to the table? And then, like you said, once they come on board, it's okay. Let's throw you into a place where you can figure out how to get this thing solved, right? I just wanted to reinforce that point because it's so important and it's so true, and it's almost like, again, from a humanitarian perspective, it just feels like such a human company. Like even those that are very atypical or are not, part of the a class of people that might be perceived a certain way, Tesla's like, screw that. You're here for a reason. Let's get there together, and it feels very human and beautiful. And again, I sound like a fanboy, but I can't help but feel that way. I can't help but feel that way.
What do you think makes that persist? It's not like Elon's walking around and tapping people on the head and say, remember, it's about merit.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's emails that are sent to all hands that use words in a useful way to try to create a common thread of thinking.
Yeah.
But what else? Some politicking in one of your earlier videos, you said does emerge. And I love how you defined politicking as something that sub-optimizes from the mission and optimizes for one person's or some subgroups gain and not the
Right.
mission. I thought that was really elegant.
Appreciate that.
And it does emerge, but then it's usually quashed.
Yes.
How? Why? What makes it persist?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. The way I think about it is, I think everyone who works at Tesla really respects the hell out of Elon. They just really, really respect him, and he doesn't need to be there for the folks that are there to be like, "Would Elon? Is this what the handbook says I should do? Is this something that Elon would want us to do?" Right? That's a constant question, and it's almost like it's that first principles thinking that gets sort of embedded into everyone's head. It's like, okay, so think of it from a first principles standpoint. Like, would you do that? Like, would you really? Is that an optimal way of solving the problem? I think that's one piece. I think people just really respect Elon and what he stands for and what he gets after. I think the other one is it's the talent. It's like when you have that leader, you're able to surround yourself with all the people in the company that are going to be just extremely talented at driving that mission forward. And because of what we just talked about, like they're all based on most if not all are based on merit. There's never any games around who should or shouldn't be there based on their appearance or whatever. Those people are generally going to make the right decisions very, very, very often. And so I think from that, and then they have 100,000 people now, right, working at the company. So a significant percentage of them, at least call it 85 to 90%, maybe even higher, are going to operate in that way. So imagine how many good decisions are being made on every freaking minute, without Elon having to be there. And we just saw I don't know if you saw the quarterly report that just came out. They delivered 308,000 cars, blowing everyone's expectation, even those that were the most like aggressive bulls out there on the market, even in our community, in the Tesla community. And Elon sent a tweet a few weeks ago saying, we're not going to go that hard in Q4. We're going to do it right. And then it ends up blowing everyone's expectations. It's because of the people. He has surrounded that entire company with incredibly talented people that are always going to make the right decision for the company and the mission. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I don't know if that lines up with what you saw, but like that's how I think about it.
I really think the lack of a ladder to climb takes away that game that a lot of people want to play at work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's simply, here is the work to do, and there's rapid feedback on, did you make the situation better or worse?
Right. It's so true.
And so that becomes your game, because there's no other game. It's not like you're sitting in an office and in meetings thinking who likes who and who went golfing with who, which, I mean, a lot of the time that is the game.
Yep.
And in Tesla, no one's going golfing.
Yeah. There's no time
no
for
one
golf.
has time.
Maybe on the computer when you're home, like PGA Tour or something.
You went home?
Oh, yeah, of course. To sleep for a little bit. Yeah.
So it's not like you've got your annual goals to hit.
Right.
It's simply, did the processes you touch have superior outcome after you touch them or less? And you know that before anyone else does.
Yep.
So it's not like some manager comes up and hits someone and says, you made it worse. Like, you see that before anyone else. So you're already working on the fix, because where else are you going to go? Right.
Absolutely.
You got to be there to improve it again.
It's so true. It's so true.
I mean, if you just walked away, that would be a reason to get fired. You know, if you made it worse and just walked away, you could lose your job for that one.
Yeah.
So
you would get your ass kicked so fast if that were to happen. Yeah.
I mean, your team would try to help you. Are you okay? What's wrong?
Right.
I mean, if you were just cold about it, like, I had enough of this, like you would be gone.
Yeah. So quick. That is so true. I wonder. Go ahead. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, so ultimately it's like, do you see this happening anywhere else? Like, do you think there are any new entrants that are coming like down the pike that might be able to do this? Like any Chinese companies or anything? Do you have any exposure from that front? I'm curious, like does the next Tesla, like, do we have to wait 20 years for that next Tesla to arrive? Like what does it look like,
Yeah. So a person of Elon's capability, focus, dedication, I think the last person who may have been of that impact may have been the Yellow Emperor thousands of years ago. And it's hard to know what is true and what is myth. I mean, this is thousands of years back, but maybe the Yellow Emperor could have been very Musk-like in some aspects. But some of that might be apocryphal and we don't really know. So it's quite possible there won't be another Elon for another several thousand years.
Wow.
To run Elon-like companies. And that then brings me back to my passion. So if I choose to believe that Elon is a rare type of person and directly responsible for much of the awesomeness that the Musk companies have, and a lot of human history will not have someone of that caliber, is if that's part of my thesis. But I still have a dream of 1 million, or actually 10 billion companies behaving like this, that are this valuable to humanity and this fun to work in, this satisfying. How can that come true? And the closest I've seen, this really could be a case of a hammer that looks at everything like a nail. I mean, I was an agilist before I went to Tesla. And so, of course, I saw agile principles everywhere. But there's also a lot of things I saw at Tesla that are outside agile. And I know agile well enough to say that with reasonable confidence. And I'm still trying to unpack and figure out what that is that I experienced, because there's more. I can't just say get agile. That would not, there's many companies trying to do that, and they haven't become the Musk companies.
Yep.
But my wish is to make it more repeatable and try to make 10 or less rules so that you can keep them in mind, that people can use to get near, or ideally even better than Musk companies. And I don't have them yet. The 4 agile values and the 12 agile principles are the closest I've seen, but they don't hit it. They will not make you a Musk company. They'll help a lot of companies. They'll get a lot of companies way closer than where they are now. I mean, what that would do is it would get GM, for example, to less than 30-day releases in hardware. That would be a very different, much more competitive General Motors. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But that's not what Tesla's doing.
Yeah.
Tesla would blow that away.
Yeah.
So there's these cool agile principles that have given me a vocabulary and an understanding point. And I think because of that, I was able to recognize a lot of things in a really short amount of time. But it also has hamstrung me. It's also held me back, because what are all these other things that are outside agile that I don't have names for? No one here seems to have names for either. It's simply the way the work happens. So I'd like to try to distill that into something repeatable. That's absolutely my dream. So I'll send a shout out to everyone on Farzad's channel. If you have a lexicon, a vocabulary for some of this, some proposed names or a set of names that already exist that are short and easy to remember. I'm not looking for a set of 12 books. I've probably read them and I think I probably know what you're talking about, but that's not going to make it easy and repeatable. That's not something you can give to your kids when you fly off to Mars and say, this is what you use to make your next company, right? And you read this canon. That doesn't scale well.
Right.
Please put it in the comments. Tag me. I'm at Joe Justice on Twitter. Tag Farzad. Let's learn. I think it's hyper important to attempt to say, here's the Musk company or better startup kit.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it. I teach an agile hardware developer course. It's 2 days and it's the best I've figured out so far. And if companies did that, they'd be in a really good position. But I think I don't have it yet. It wouldn't make Tesla again without Musk.
Yeah.
So I'm aiming that way.
Got it. Wow. So that's an eye-opening statement for me, because the way I think about Tesla, my experiences is that Tesla was like so this is like the peak. Like this is everything that's happening here. But it seems like so from your perspective, somebody who has had so much exposure to Agile and again has had this very impressive background, in your eyes, you still are seeing something that hasn't been seen before that you don't even know how to describe. That feels almost surreal. It feels like almost like we're living. And I guess it goes back to the other comment you made about someone like Musk that has lived before in the past, maybe a couple thousand years. So it's not even generational. This is like on the time scale of thousands of years, you know? So like if we fast forward, okay, let's do a little fun experiment here. So let's fast forward 20 years from now. Okay. So, and let's say Tesla continues in its own trajectory. Okay. What's the world look like? Like what has happened, right? What has happened?
Yeah. I think that's pretty clear. Like the problem is it's so crazy. This is where I would lose a lot of people. They'd say, well, that's just nuts. There's no way.
You're not going to lose me.
And the conversation might end up being only you and me and other people who actually work in these companies. And that's not going to help so many people outside. But I'll answer it honestly.
Yeah.
In 20 years, if we look at the ramp, I mean, there's a trend. You can see the trend in terms of innovation pace and rate of delivery and time length between iterations across all the Musk companies. And in 20 years, Tesla will very likely, and okay, what's actually likely going to happen is Musk seems to have a very good heart. And I don't think Musk is going to directly take over other companies, not hostile takeover style, but it's going to become multi-branded at some point. I still think that Tesla share price is going to bear the brunt of the success. So I'm very long. I'm 10,000 years long on TSLA.
Yeah.
But I think Tesla is going to rescue a lot of other companies, directly or indirectly. And I think Tesla is going to rescue a bunch of other industries. I think housing is on the radar. And this isn't me leaking sensitive information. Musk has hinted at that directly. And it's a dire need. Education as a concept, money as a concept, government as a concept, news, media, and fact as a concept will see fundamental rewrites, updates, edits, multiple new versions. Transparency will have a movement behind it. And I imagine there's going to be a bunch of misinformed backlash. I mean, we've already seen that, but imagine when people feel they're truly fighting for their lives, not fighting for one of their share price. I mean, there's a risk of World War III. I think Musk is elegant enough to bypass that, to miss it. And in fact, I see some of those mitigations happening now to prevent World War III. Part of it is putting plants, production facilities, and spending time there personally in places that could have been the trigger people. And I think that will continue to grow. China was first. That was very intentional. Germany was second. That was very intentional. India's on the radar. Musk is super smart and basically playing geopolitics for good, for the good of humans. I mean, it's not like he's buying a $500 million boat like Bezos just did.
Right.
Better than anyone. And the concept of money, the concept of education, the concept of fact and fact reporting are being updated. And in 20 years, it's going to be super different, is my anticipation. And that's simply the trend.
Yeah.
Like not even wishful thinking, like that's what's happening. There's already a set of Musk influenced schools with awesome robotics programming, KUKA robots in Texas. I mean, imagine kindergartners, preschoolers directly programming Fanuc and KUKA robots, the same ones in the factory.
Wow.
And that is happening now. So you have an update of what vocational education was supposed to be. And this is why the correlation with what may have been the Yellow Emperor is really apt.
Sure.
Some of the legends about the Yellow Emperor credit them with modern crop science. And then the political system that encouraged people to store crops over season. And then the political neighborhood and ethics system that created families that would consistently tend crops and rotate them and understand the effects of different foods, which foods were croppable, because this was way back in the day.
Yeah.
And how to breed and optimize those, so that you could then have a non-roving, more established, knowledge concentrating and compounding society. And that's one of the largest changes that has happened to humanity. And whether one person did that or not, I have no idea. But if they did, that's what Musk is pulling off.
Yeah. It's like man. So and here's my little secret is that it's hard for me to not agree with you, right? It's hard because it sounds, and I'll give an example. Like I would bring something like this up to my friends, right? And it's just immediately laughed off. It's like, come on, man, like this has never happened. You're crazy, like they're going to get broken up and blah, blah, blah. But there's such the uniqueness of Elon is that he is, like you said, somebody who's so good-hearted, somebody who's clearly a really good person, who has access to a tremendous amount of capital. And there is a ton of people that want to work for him who happen to be the most talented in the world, right? So like that triple combination is sort of that superpower, So it's like, why wouldn't it end up like that way? So, and I'm curious to hear, like, what would be the biggest obstacle that would prevent them, Elon, Tesla, X, whoever, to arrive to that point? Is it government intervention? Is it, I'm sure Elon dying is going to be a humongous obstacle. There's got to be some sort of time that has to pass for that mission to continue without him, even if it's possible. I'm curious, like, what are those, obstacles in that 20-year time frame that could potentially, bury this thing?
Yeah, those are the two. The Musk companies are taking awesome steps to befriend and be useful, loving partners to even traditional outmoded government.
Yeah.
And really doing awesome jobs at that. Musk paying more taxes than anyone in the country Musk chooses to live in currently has ever paid in the history of that country in 1 year.
Yeah.
But government action is big enough that it could break up the Musk companies. For example, the government of Japan could ban cars sold from the United States, or it could just ban Teslas. They could. Germany could do the same. Now, that would be more difficult. There's Giga Berlin, and it's soon to become a major employer and major education center, major technology center. I mean, a real pride and prize.
Yeah.
Japan doesn't have that yet. They could just simply say Teslas can't be sold here. There'd be backlash, but Japan has other ways to balance that out on the political spectrum, not for Musk, but they could say, we'll give these other countries something else in exchange, but no Teslas. They could do that. Now, if only Japan did that, they would just get overrun later, right? Because they just fall behind. They need the Meiji era restoration again, but they've done that before, so they could do it again.
Yeah.
But if several countries did that, or if the US passed legislation saying autopilot specifically is super banned, which they could. I mean, there's danger of that even this year, right? That would really slow things down, maybe even stop them. So government intervention, Tesla's not past that. Now, the Musk companies are taking super artful, loving, appropriate, correct steps to reduce those risks and amplify the good in current world governments. And I don't mean to sound too weird, but if you actually look at what the companies do, that's exactly what they're doing. So I don't think so, but it's still a risk. It could happen. Then the other is, somebody could assassinate Elon Musk.
Right.
It's horrible. I mean, but if you look at the history of humans, it's happened a lot of times, a lot of times. People who had made even a fraction of the impact of Elon Musk. Now, at this point, Musk has been clear enough about Musk's thinking that if Musk were martyred, it might get weirdly religioned, but the Musk companies might still surge for another couple hundred years, couple thousand years. It might lose the core and heart. But the missions as understood now might last. The problem is, it certainly appears that there's a lot more to the master plan, and it's all just obvious. What would you wish the future to be 1,000, a million years out?
Yep.
That Elon has clear thinking about. And a lot of people have trouble having clear thinking about. Even sci-fi authors have trouble writing a positive utopian story a million years into the future. But Elon seems to have a pretty clear, clean angle. We would lose that because we're not there. The possibilities bring us closer haven't emerged. It's not like Elon could write it down. If Elon could, Elon would. But it has to emerge. You have to knock the steps out. Like recent interview, Musk being asked, well, what's the government on Mars going to look like? And Musk clearly had a bunch of ideas. But he also said, look, if we can't afford to get us and the infrastructure there, it doesn't matter. So almost all of my brain power now is being bent on how do we get there affordably? Okay, cool. Well, here's the cool thing. What do you think Musk's brain power and all the cool people functioning with Musk are going to be thinking about once it is affordable to get to Mars?
Right.
I want to see that. That's what we would miss.
Yeah. Wow. That's so crazy, man. That's so crazy. What? So you're obviously somebody who's followed Elon and Tesla for a while. You know, it does seem like you've been somebody that has really, you're a fan. You're a fan of the company, not just a former employee, but you've followed them for a while. When did that journey start, and what really kicked it off?
Well, I'd also like to ask you the same question.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I'll answer also.
Sure.
So in 2010, I was competing in something called the Progressive Insurance Automotive X Prize. It was a $10 million prize purse to see if anyone could make a road legal car that was production possible. So not a science fair experiment is what they said. So it needed heat, defrost, air conditioning, a stereo, airbags. Could anyone make one that could seat 4 adults and pass all safety standards that achieved higher than 100 miles per gallon or equivalent? And they had a formula to calculate electric equivalency. And in 2010, there were no electric cars, practically speaking. Tesla was still working on the Roadster. And I met some Tesla teams, and they were my competition. You know, I had this team making the Wikispeed car, and we chose gasoline because I actually liked electric, but the scoring criteria, the way they measured miles per gallon or equivalent, was actually difficult for electric. It wasn't impossible, but it was biased against electric. It was biased towards very efficient gasoline, and I wanted to win. So I did have a vision for future automotive transportation, but I viewed a key step towards that as winning, not making the prototype towards this awesome vision if it won't win. And I met some of the Tesla team in 2010, and they were some of the same people working on the Roadster and trying to make the Roadster really work. And Musk did, in hindsight, I think was the best move. Musk withdrew Team Tesla from the competition. They left early, saying, we can't split our attention this way. And that was dates overlap with right when one of the times Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. It's like, look, we got to make Roadster work. And it's true, the scoring criteria, Roadster might not have won. And so it might have worked against Tesla indirectly in terms of PR, even though Roadster was far and away the only one of the cars that competed that you would have wanted to drive, you would have wanted to own. The rest were very amazing and awesome engineering, but not anything as real world usable as even the Tesla Roadster was, Roadster 1. which was a niche sports product with compared to today's Tesla's limited range, but far more usable than all the other products, including mine. Well, I didn't win the X Prize, but the team tied for 10th place. And that got us road legalization consulting from Roush. So we used that to take our prototype and make it road legal, which we did, put license plates on them. We sold some of them. And we went to the largest auto show in the world. And that was January 2011. And Tesla was there with the frame, the chassis of the Model S. And I showed off the Wikispeed car, and it was an agile car. It was split into 8 modules. So you could take off the McPherson strut suspension and attach double wishbone suspension in about the time you'd change a tire. Like, it was radically quick to iterate. And that was its superpower. And that was my entire theory: make it really cheap and easy and not frustrating to change, simple to understand. And the evolution will run away from you if you just put interested people near it. And that happened. We set 4 world records just by that theory. It worked. And the Model S was a monolithic single. It looked like a Daimler product. It looked exactly like a Daimler product, which later I found out it largely was. It was help from existing Daimler engineers. And it didn't have any of those, I thought, modern next generation features. So I talked to the Model S chassis team about it. And I said, look, that's going to be expensive to change. And here's why. They had some modularity. I mean, they were super smart, and the Roadster already had some level of modularity, and the Model S had some, but not in the frame, not in the chassis, for example. Only the battery pack dropped in and out, and then other components, which already traditional car manufacturers had figured out how to make modular, like the drivetrain unit. And so I worked with the team at the auto show before and after in 2010 and then 2011. And then I saw the level of modularity ramping up, and I have no idea if it had anything to do with what I said. I mean, truly, this is, if thoughtful people were interested in reducing the cost to make change, this is probably one of the things they would try. Sure. And I did talk to them about it, but they already had some modularity anyway. So I definitely didn't introduce that to Tesla. I talked to them about it. And then I started buying Tesla stock like 2013, something like that. I mean, it was low then relative to what it's achieved now. And then by 2020, I had just finished working a whole bunch in Toyota and Nissan. And I'd had a breakfast with the leadership groups of most of the nations represented by BMW. And in Agile Automotive, I was already the person. And I'd been in all these companies. Earlier, I had set up a Scrum training that's a part of Agile inside Tesla, and almost no Tesla employees took it. Tesla was super kind that they allowed other people from other companies to come inside Tesla and take a Scrum training. 2 Scrum trainings offered that week. And one of my business partners now took that training. And almost no Tesla employees took it. And I realized this Scrum thing was not helping Tesla. They were past it. And what are they doing? Is it what I think they're doing? And I honestly, I had to know. I'm considered the top in the world in Agile Automotive, and I have no idea why this company is so awesome. They're doing everything that I would recommend, and they're crushing it better than I would. What else do they know? And I was pulled into the company like a magnet. I'd actually wanted to join the company years before, but I fell into a common trap. The clients I had were too nice, too kind. The dinners were too good. The money was too comfortable. I wish I had put that on hold and taken a indefinite sabbatical years before, but I finally did in 2020. And man, that changed my life. That is the coolest, the fastest, most amazing company. It's everything I wished it would be. And I will never be the same as a human after that event.
That's amazing. Thank you for the in-depth honesty there, man. That was like, I can relate a lot with that. For me, For me, so I started following the company back in. I'm still like reeling from your story. That's so cool. Like especially like the fact that you already had exposure to the engineering aspect of the car and everything like that, and that's how you were first introduced is through that is very very cool for me as somebody who's always wanted to be. I went to school as my first 2 years was engineering, and I started my third year, and I took I forget what the class was, and I'm like nope. I'm like nope. So instead, my dumbass went to mathematics instead, and that was like just as hard, if not crazier. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to switch my majors again. I'm sticking with math, you know. But anyway, that's a separate story. Um, but yeah, for me, I started. So I graduated college in 2009 with a degree in math and stat from Penn State, and I started working at a pet food distributor for a couple of years, and I was super lucky to have incredibly good mentors. You know, I that entire time I was there, I can't tell you how thankful I am of that entire experience. You know, while I was there, I started as a temp, and I left the company as a director of BI and pricing in 2017. And then not bad. But then in 2012, 2013, when I got my first manager job, I started getting a couple extra pennies that I could throw into my bank account. You know, so it's something that I had, and I wanted to plan for the future. I'm like, okay, so if I really want to sit down and think about, I really want to reach my goals in the next 10, 20, 30 years, okay, I'm going to need some sort of fund that's going to enable me to do that. And obviously working at Phillips was the company was, you know, good. They were paying me decent enough money, but it's like, okay, I have amazing goals. I have really big goals, not amazing, but really big goals. And I have a ton of student debt, and I live with my parents. Uh, I need to do something else. So I started playing around with investing a little bit, right? So I started sort of buying stocks here and there. And one of the companies I started to look into was Tesla back in 2012. And the reason why I started looking into them was I think just like any other person that has most people, they went on YouTube and, you know, top stocks to invest in 2012, whatever, right? So and one of them was Tesla, and I started reading. I started learning more about Musk, and I started learning more about Elon and Tesla and SpaceX and PayPal. And then what really captivated me was the sort of the honesty of how Elon approached his company. Right, like he just came across so honest, and like he really wanted to do this for humanity, not for the money. It was very profound. It felt really, really profound, and that was really important for me because it's, you know, I like to think that humans are more than just alive just to make a lot of money. We're here to make a difference somehow. We're trying to move the society forward or humanity forward or understand the universe better, whatever. You know, it's more than money. It has to be more than money. And here's a leader that was very obviously conveying himself at the very least about that. But there was just something about him that you could tell that he was being honest. Like it was, you know, I don't know if it's cues he had or the way he spoke. You know, he has a very endearing way he speaks. It was just very obvious that he's being very honest. So I'm like, okay, this is somebody I have to follow. You know, this is somebody that I have to learn from. So I threw a few bucks into Tesla. At the time, I literally my savings account was $10,000. That's all I had, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take half of it, and I'm going to buy Tesla stock, and we'll see where it goes. You know, hopefully, I'll use my paycheck to cover my expenses, and we'll see where we go. And then I bought it back when it was $30 before the split, right? So this is like it would have been like $6 in today's prices. And then they reported their first profitable quarter, and it went from $30 to 180. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's really, really nice. My life has changed in a way. You know, my life has changed. I can now buy a house. And so I became obsessed. I became completely obsessed with the company. I'm like, okay, so people seem to be waking up to this idea, to this company that's going to really make a huge difference. And I just through that journey from 2012, 2013, all the way up through 2017, I became incredibly obsessed with the company. And all I did was tell all my friends, buy Tesla stock, buy Tesla stock. It's going to be the best thing ever. Don't follow my financial advice, but buy Tesla stock, you know? And then come 2017, when I was living in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania at the time, they opened a distribution warehouse in that location. So they have a parts distribution warehouse, and my Phillips was looking to move their headquarters from Easton, which is right next to Bethlehem, down to North Carolina, Charlotte. And at that time, my my wife and I were talking, okay, so do we want to stay? Do we want to go? And I said, let's just kind of look around. Like Phillips has taught me very well, and everything's great. But there was some like change of the old guard. There was new folks coming in who were also very good. But a lot of my mentors were starting to exit the company, and there was a lot of opportunity for me at Phillips. I mean, I honestly believe I was on a track to be a VP or down the line as an executive at some point. So they took really, really, really good care of me. And but then I saw a listing for Tesla pop up for an analyst out of the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania facility, right? And I'm like, okay, so obviously a typo. Like, why would Tesla ever have a thing in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania? I always tell people we have great cows and milk, but we're not known for like these like high tech spots. But it was true. So I applied, and we went through the interview process and everything, and we seemed to get along really well, and they brought me on board. And for those 4 years, I felt like the luckiest person in the world. It's I followed this company for a while. I like to tell people that the company has changed my life more than once. It's honestly changed my life like 2 or 3 times. First through that little bit of financial a more financial ability from my first investment, which was for me was life changing. Then working at a company for 4 years, that completely made me rethink how a company should function. Right, just completely made me rethink how to approach a problem. Period. Not just in a workplace, but like life in general. Just thinking about the fundamentals. Right. That was I did not expect to learn that. I just expected to go there and bust my ass for as long as I could to drive the mission forward. And then I come away with all these incredible tools that I never had before. I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. Incredible friends. I've made incredible friends at the place that I talk to this day. And yeah, it's just been, and now that I left the company, and as of September, I still can't shut up about the damn thing. I've been following it for so long. It was a grueling 4 years. We made a lot of amazing things and happen and everything like that. But like now, I'm like, I still can't stop. And now that I have this financial freedom which was directly correlated to Tesla, and the luck that I've had to sort of take as much time as I need to figure out who I am as a person. And being part of that experience has been, I don't know, I'm just very thankful for it. I'm just very thankful for it. But that's my story. It's just, again, like I feel like the biggest fanboy in the world, but for me, it's hard not to be, just because of how profound it has been for me. It's been so
What
profound.
what would have made Tesla be able to keep you for another 4 years?
I don't think there was anything that would have happened that would have kept me there. And only because I think I'm at a point in my life where I really need to figure out who I am as a person. I need to connect a little bit more spiritually. I need to figure out why am I here? Why am I here? So, and the way I think about that is, okay, so Tesla obviously has been this incredible employer and once in a lifetime opportunity to work there, but I also have this incredible gift from the universe that is my health, beautiful wife, family, and financial freedom. Right? It's something that seems to be incredibly rare, and something that I felt like if I don't capitalize on now to really figure out what it means to be me, to be alive, that it's just my journey. I have to go on that journey. I have to go on that journey. It's kind of like it's like spiritual. It's almost like philosophical in a sense. I don't know. Like I could look back 2 years from now and be like, that was stupid. Why the hell did you leave? Kind of thing. But I honestly don't. I really don't feel that way. I really don't feel that way. I feel like the lessons that I learned from working there for 4 years and the friendships that I've made, it's gonna stay with me forever. And now again, it's this gift from the universe that I have to choose my own path now, like to figure out where to go. And this sort of YouTube channel is part of me trying to figure that out. Sort of in the same way you're sharing your experiences that you've had there. That's one way of me trying to figure out what my purpose is I'm trying to get what I know or what I've experienced out to the world. Just here, take it. It's yours. And I hope that brings value to people. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's not a money thing. It's not a money thing for me. It's it's just getting closer to who I am as a person, and because I just feel like for a lot of my life, I spent a lot of time being so focused on the destination of like, okay, like I need to hit this goal, hit this goal, hit this goal. And now I'm like, man, it's the journey. And Elon talks about this too. It's not a destination, it's a journey thing. So you have to figure out how to experience the journey. And I'm like, okay, so I feel like I haven't done that for myself, for who I am as a person. So I want to take the time to do that, and it opens me up to be, with my wife for a lot more time. We can travel and see the world, see other cultures, see what this humanity thing is about, this being alive thing is about. I don't know. It sounds kind of crazy, but like that's sort of where I'm at. Like very profound. It's weird. Weird. I don't know.
Perfectly said.
Thank you.
Perfectly
Thank you.
said,
Thank you.
Farzad.
Good.
I wish there were more bathrooms at the facilities. That would have kept me at least a little longer.
So I was going to ask you, what do you think is their greatest weakness? Because I have a couple in mind. So what do you perceive as their greatest weakness from that perspective?
And I do think, in terms of knocking out frustration from the employees to get the job done, Tesla is amazing. Amazing. But in terms of, if Tesla, the way it was when I worked in there, which was already a year ago, so I mean, it could be different now. But if the way people were working and I was working in Tesla is what scales out among the stars, I think that's sad. And Tesla right now, in SpaceX and to the limited knowledge I have, the Boring Company and Neuralink and OpenAI, the way they work isn't the humanity I want humanity to be known for. They're the means, not the end. And I think the upgrade to Tesla is to be just as fast and be the society that should scale out among the stars. When I worked in Tokyo, for example, everything is so slow. It's the home of lean. It is so slow. I went into a furniture store. I had an apartment and I'd already picked out the couch I wanted. That couch, it was there. I saw the price. I had my credit card on the table. It's so polite. They brought me an orange juice. They asked me if I wanted something else. And then on a beautiful tray with the napkin just so. And they talked about how many installment payments would I like on a credit card. And I'm like, just one, please. It took an hour.
Wow. And
I wasn't trying to be rude. I wasn't trying to rush. But I said, oh, I'd like to be quick. I did express that to be polite to me would be to make this transaction quick. I had something else. I wanted to go to the gym. I missed the gym because it took an hour to buy this couch, and that I knew exactly the one. And it's like that all the time to do everything in Japan, but I've never felt so relaxed and low stress. Like you get in a taxi, thinking you're going to go somewhere fast, and there's not traffic. And it's going like 30 miles an hour. And you're like, why? And it's beautiful. The driver has white gloves. You're sitting on laced white doilies. The door opens and closes for you. Why don't all taxis do that?
Right.
And it's totally relaxing. I arrived refreshed to where I was going. I was late, but I was refreshed to where I was going. It's a culture where no one cares about wasting your time. But as a result, you start to not care about your time as well. And it becomes timeless, and it's extremely low stress most of the time. And there's absolutely incredibly high stress moments. It's not like anyone's figured out how to get away from that, to my knowledge. But that is closer. If that could intersect with the speed of innovation of the Musk companies, that is closer to what should scale among the stars. And the Musk companies don't have some of that yet. And Elon even talks about that. He talks about the wabi-sabi, the perfection of imperfection, and how that draws you in. He definitely understands the aesthetic. And when he retweets Archilect, there's this sense of what this future society could be.
Mm.
And it's not all means of production stuff.
Mm.
But when I was working in Tesla, in the most fun Lego set I've ever played in, a lot of the time I was also thinking, I gotta pee.
Mm.
And these robots aren't going to wait for me.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd really like a coffee, but it's 45 minutes from here to get an awesome coffee. And it's really freaking loud. I'd love to ask this question. I can't hear them. They can't hear me. And these human experience points are an opportunity, a healing point, so that, I mean, Tesla is the coolest company I've ever been in, and I want it to be huge, 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 and I want many more companies to be like it. But there's something about how working in them should be the means, should be the path. Not the means to the end. It should be the path. Like going to this place to contribute is not only worth doing because I think the mission is worth doing and I get to work with the best people in the world, and I'm consistently hit in the chest with feedback of awesome because the accomplishments come so fast.
Yeah.
But it also needs to be peaceful. It also needs to be even more healthy. It's not dangerous. And a lot of factory jobs have some element of that. And Tesla has really done amazing. They're world-class in safety. But it's definitely a different experience than when I sat down to buy the couch, which could have been a lot faster. It could have been at Tesla speed, but it was way more polite. So making the culture inside the company for humans what should scale out among the stars. So if we met this other civilization and it came to us, that it's not like the Klingons. It's not like we work all the time. This is what we do. It's instead you meet the can absolutely defend itself like a puffer fish, but well-dressed, relaxed, versed in the arts, eloquent and comfortable and congenial culture. And that's not the wave that hits you when you come in Tesla.
So true. I wonder how much of that is the bot. Is the bot the solution to that? The Tesla bot.
I think you may be onto something. But the software teams, in my experience, are just as nutty. Right. So I think Elon sees it. Right. And I do think there's a path towards there, and the bot is one of these enabling elements. And the awesome AI stacks are, I think, also part of it. Right. As guides to your decision making and your fast feedback loop. Digital self-management is what I'm starting to call it, which I'd never experienced before the Musk companies. That I think is one of the things that goes beyond what most people seem to understand is agile. Now, don't get me wrong, agile would be a huge move in the right direction for almost every company on planet Earth.
Right.
So would lean single one piece continuous flow.
Sure.
But they're way behind Tesla. And so one of these new items, maybe I can start to name, and it's digital self-management. And I think those will start to heal this. But there's culturally something that's still, I didn't feel I often had a chance to express myself as an artist, for example. And there were some chances, actually. But that, I think, in the ultimate manifestation of humanity is something that we live almost continuously, expressing ourselves as an artist. And maybe that sounds too esoteric to most people listening to the podcast, but I actually think that's completely legit true.
I agree with you there. I think so. It's interesting you mentioned that last point where you didn't have like a chance to express yourself as an artist. So the one thing that really stood out to me, and this is where I think well, actually, are you still good with time? We're an hour and a half in.
I'm all right until at a maximum the next 30 minutes. Okay,
got it. Okay. So I think that the one thing I can really relate with the last point there of not being allowed to, or you didn't have the chance to really express yourself as an artist. This is where I think one of Tesla's potential because they have so many divisions now. I guess you can call them divisions, but they have so many different things. So my experience, I actually did see that from where I was, you know. So, and I'll give you an example. So we were in a parts distribution warehouse, and we were. This is especially in the early days where we literally had sticks and stones. I mean, figuratively, you know, not literally, but sticks and stones. Okay, build a warehouse that can ship thousands of parts out a day. Oh, by the way, you don't have the systems. Oh, by the way, you have to do your own hiring. Oh, and by the way, you're on your own island in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We'll see you in 24 hours. We got to go get the Model 3 out the door. Okay, so, and it was like 3 people in leadership positions and like 25 material handlers. And what was really beautiful for me to see was how, and this is enabled obviously by the leadership group there that's there, that has taken that Elon sort of, you know, that mission of like just first principles thinking, but also make sure there's no layers to anything. Let's get stuff done. I saw so many people, and maybe it's not necessarily an art thing, but it's like I saw so many people be able to solve problems in their own way and how they wanted to do it, and almost give them like a little bit of a playground that says, okay, you know, we have 2 to 4 hours to get this thing figured out and tested. You know, Joe, what's your idea? Greg, what's your idea? I think this would work. Okay, cool. Go, go try it. What about you, Jose? I think this would work. Okay, go quick, go try it. Let's make it happen. And it was almost out of desperation in a sense because of just how little. It's way scrappier than I think a lot of people realize. It's so freaking scrappy in there. It's not like the car's technology is supreme, but it is completely the opposite of what I experience. And that's why I use that sticks and stones analogy. But I think that speaks massively to Tesla's true potential, is that they're able to squeeze genius out of the simplest tools and materials available. Whereas other companies would spend millions and tens of millions in sophistication, and you end up coming out with a subpar product. And I think that's truly where Tesla's genius lies. And it's because, from my perspective, what I saw was people being able to come up with their own solutions. You know, like being that artist. Does that align with what you view that as, or am I thinking about it differently?
Okay, totally. You said that very well, but you also touched on the other aspect of it, which maybe now I can refine as comfort and aesthetics. So yes, the creative expression of being an artist, yeah, absolutely, in the problem solving. But man, if I could just make it less loud.
Gotcha. Inside. I gotcha.
If I could, like, I love, there's really attention to aesthetics at all levels of the product and the product design and the factory that makes the product. But more of that. I mean, if there was this Star Trek: The Next Generation episode where, I mean, the whole concept is you visit these other societies, right? These independently evolved societies, and then probe the possible weaknesses and strengths of that type of society. And there's this one that they paint as utopia, and it turns out to be all wrong and manipulative, and I don't know, brain parasites or something. But it starts out where it's just basically all beautiful people, and they're all artists, and they have maybe, I mean, this was a while ago, but like maybe some super weapon that they agree not to use, but that's what protects them. So they can just worry about being awesome artists. And they're like playing lutes and eating grapes and stuff. And it looks very like Peak of Rome-esque. And yeah, maybe there's some problem with it. Well, like the good part of that is what should happen if the Tesla aliens come here, right?
Yeah.
But no, it'd be someone in a hard hat who's really sweaty saying, I have to pee, and I've had way too much coffee, and I need to solve this in the next 15 minutes. Otherwise the line slows down.
Yeah.
The lines, because there's not like a line, right? The hive slows down.
Right.
And like, that's cool. I super respect it. And in fact, I'd be bored in the peak of Romanesque one. Like that's actually what I crave. But it should be a little more beautiful. It like how to put a fine point on it.
Yeah.
The inside of a Tesla factory should look like an LVMH property company. And that's one mega company that owns. It's funny if you listen to any rap song and then look at the Wikipedia article saying what LVMH owns, like you can see each time they've been paid to say a word. You got that Gucci, that Fendi, that Prada. And you're like, those are all the same company and they invest in the record label. And yeah, I mean, like entertainment is advertised. It's just all a broken system, but the products are incredibly beautiful and in some cases well-made. It should feel like that in the factory. Yeah. There's a reason why the executive team at Bosch, who I've worked with, and they make most of all BMWs and Daimlers. It's mostly outsourced to Bosch. They design and make it. And they make the steering rack for the Model S. So they make some Tesla parts. There's a reason why the leadership team at Bosch doesn't want to work in the factory, because the factory is loud and dirty. And so they have their own beautiful bathrooms. Well, the solution is you put beautiful bathrooms in the factory and you make the factory as calming and quiet as an inkjet printer or an office printer. Like that should be the loudest sound in the factory. Moving towards that as a direct goal while moving as awesomely fast as Tesla. So it feels like a really comfortable office, like that you'd want to go to. There's couches. Well, no, I never had a chance to sit at Tesla. So maybe there's no couches, but making it fashionably elegant and healing and restorative. I mean, I truly felt like I'm going to go dig a foxhole today. Every time I dressed up to go to Tesla, I'm going to war.
It felt
like
war.
I loved it. But the war analogy, unfortunately, was super close to my mind and not far out. And coming back, I felt elated. I felt elated, and I was excited for whatever the next meal was, depending on time of day. And I felt elated, but I was also pretty spent. I mean, I didn't want to have like a long, drawn out, meaningful conversation or argument about anything.
Right.
My brain was hurt.
Yeah.
My body.
Same.
And like the Tesla factory, if at LVMH level, is, I think, what should scale out across the stars.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because what's fascinating is that I wouldn't even have thought of that until you mention it. And I'm like, you know what? That would be so nice. It's like, it's part of that sort of human, like what makes us human is beautiful art, like seeing beautiful things. It's like, why? It's almost like a first principles type of approach to like how to make a warehouse or a factory as attractive as possible so your people want to be there, right? Makes all the sense in the world. And I think I'd be interested to see if they follow that approach with Austin and Berlin, you know?
It certainly looks like it's way better on that front.
Yeah.
It looks like it's really leveled up.
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of places people, you, me, other people could improve it.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's a massive leap forward.
Yeah. Step in the right direction for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Let me ask you a few fun questions here as we approach the end, only because I think it's going to be a little fun. Maybe a little bit philosophical in a sense as well, only because I just love learning a little bit more about people and how they think about things. But okay, I'll start with the first one here. This one's so stupid. How do you like your eggs?
Before we go into these most important questions,
yes,
I have a very bad idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
Which is, should we pour drinks and have this question?
Ooh, do you want to? I'll do it. Yeah, I'll have some whiskey. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can, Farzad. Well done, sir. Well
done. Thank you. You as well. Rowan's Creek.
Ooh, wow.
Are you a fan of whiskey?
I am, but I haven't had Rowan's Creek.
Yes.
It looks small batch. It looks interesting.
Yeah, it was recommended to me by somebody at the liquor store. And yeah, they seem to really, they were very high on it. So I went with it. Um,
I got
ooh,
Lahaina, a Hawaiian rum
okay.
that I try to buy local. So it's made right here on the island. But I
Okay.
wasn't sure what you were going to come back with. I also brought a Gold Coast IPA,
Oh, I love
which
IPAs.
is 7%. And
Ooh.
I'll be acting pretty silly by the end. But if you're going to do whiskey, I'll start with the
All
Lahaina.
right, let's do it. Yeah.
A little crystal glass from Japan here with some ice.
Nice. I got a nice basic, I think, restoration hardware. My wife's a huge fan of that place. We got a
For
little,
you,
yeah.
Farzad, let's figure out if we can be good friends.
All right, yeah, let's do it, man. This was so much fun, by the way. Like, thank you so much for you. You seem like such an honest, open person. I find it very easy to have a conversation with you. You know?
Well, let me. You're super kind, and let me just level with you.
Yeah.
When I saw I think it was your first YouTube, but maybe not. I've seen two, so I haven't seen
Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
But the first one I saw, I think it was your first. It was therapy for me
Wow.
because since leaving Tesla, sometimes I would absolutely wonder, was it real?
Mm,
Was it that fast?
mm,
Did that really happen?
mm,
And I felt validated. Like it was so healing for
mm.
me on a mental level. It was massive. And I think I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
You being brave enough to be honest and say, here's what I've experienced. And it is really positive. So it is a lot of positives. But to me, it seems balanced because it is that awesome of an experience. And then also that you were spending a lot of your time in a completely different facility. I didn't go to Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And it was also so inspiring to me that the culture reached out. I instantly wished that I could get to know you. So thank
Yeah.
you for continuing to make awesome productions on YouTube. Both the ones I've seen were phenomenal. And then even inviting me to be on one.
Of
So cheers.
course.
Here's to
Oh
you,
my God.
Farzad.
Cheers. So kind. Wow. That's awesome. That was so sweet, man.
I went to
Honestly,
grade school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
what's that?
I went to grade school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania,
Really? Wow.
Pennsylvania Dutch. So not right where you are, but
Yeah. Kind of
not so
close.
far away.
Yeah, it's like Lancaster actually looks really cool. Like they have a lot of restaurants, like niche restaurants now. It's like a very like niche, like little place. It's awesome. Wow. Honestly, I was gonna say like I was thinking about making this YouTube channel because that experience was so unique. But to be completely honest, you were one of the primary reasons why I did it in the first place. Because I saw you talk about it. I'm like, okay, so he has the balls to come out and talk about it. Honestly, Joe, like I'm not even kidding. Like you inspired me in a big sense to really tell my own story and almost like reinforce, like back you up. You know, because I'm like, I don't want Joe to be the only one out there saying this because I know other people are going to be like, oh my God, you know, I don't really care what other people think per se, but it's like, I think it's important to reinforce that story because it is so unique and so important to the mission, you know, and it's also a unique perspective that others in the Tesla community, which has by far the most passionate fans of anything I've ever seen, it's a tribute for them because I almost see myself as a fan, and I was able to be there for 4 years, and I'm like, yo, look at what I learned. Check out what I learned. You know, I'm like so excited to share it. But you coming out and really speaking so openly about it was a huge inspiration for me to do this channel. So I got to thank you. I have to thank you more than anything, man. Seriously, thank you.
Well, then here's to the internet introducing us
Yeah,
to each other,
for real. Cheers.
to the hive mind.
Ah,
I'll ask you going forward.
yeah,
Like I journal every day, and I journaled every day I was at Tesla.
yeah.
And I'm going through all those now and all the photos and videos I took, which I took huge amounts, but I actually don't know if anyone in Tesla would care, but I'm not releasing any of those. I only release pictures that have been released through official Tesla
Mm-hmm.
channels or otherwise in the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone in Tesla IP or legal, since
Yeah.
you're cheering for Farzad, if you reply, Joe, it's okay. Your pictures are a year old now. Please let me. I mean, they'd really help explain some things faster.
Mm.
But I'm still just trying to process and learning so much looking back.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is reach out to you again, Farzad, because my dream is to have 1 million or more companies, ideally 10 billion, one for everyone alive. So, give it a few more years, we'll have 10 billion people.
Yeah.
Companies that are as fast or even more awesome. That'd be hard to do, but maybe than the Musk companies. So I'd like to send you drafts, if you don't mind, publicly, if you don't mind. Maybe I'll tweet them to you so other people can comment and say, here's what I think I understand. Like if I was going to go off to space tomorrow and I'm on my way to Alpha Centauri to start the stuff there, and I'm just going to be out of touch. And like my kids, like, here is the best I learned so far.
Yeah.
Use this. Like that. That's what I want to try to make from these experiences.
Yeah.
Would you mind if I sent them to, do they pass or not pass the Farzad test? Which do they actually match with your experiences?
Right. I would love that. I'm more than happy to help you with that. Public, private, whatever you think is the best way to do it. Public probably, crowdsource this thing a little bit. I would love to be part of that. Absolutely. It'll be my pleasure. Yeah. It'll be my pleasure. That's awesome, man. You're so cool. You're so cool. Anyway, let me get to the question. I know you have a time cap here coming up, so I definitely want to get these questions out to you. And again, these are like simple, nothing too crazy, but some of them have a little bit deeper meaning. I'm curious to hear your responses. But the first one is, how do you like your eggs?
Do you want like funny or like actual honest answers?
Whichever. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I always poach or boil eggs, always, because then there's no extra oil in them. They don't stick to the pan. It's maximum calorie extraction with no extra junk that I didn't plan.
Nice. Good answer. Tea or coffee?
I don't mean to date this video, but it is January 2nd. Mm-hmm. I love coffee. So many kinds. I'm like a real coffee. I don't want to say aficionado because that implies I know something, but like I really care about it. Mm-hmm. And it definitely coffee, but I've tried to not have it for the last 2 days. And so I don't know, right now it's trying to not, but the answer would normally be, for taste reasons, I just love coffee.
Yeah. Have you tried? So I remember when I gave up coffee, so I had to give up coffee because I became very, very sensitive to caffeine, and it would literally give me anxiety attacks. Like I would be in really rough shape. And it was really hard for me to transition out of it, but I almost did it out of desperation because the anxiety was getting to a point where it's like, it was literally interfering with my life. But I've learned that going to decaf, like, it helped me a lot because I love that taste. I love that taste of coffee. So it might be worth giving that a shot and seeing if, because it helped me curb the fix immediately. I was like, I'll stay with a headache. I don't care. It's going to last a few weeks. But I still have the taste. It's almost like, like a hack. Might be worth a shot.
Thanks for the tip. The current bottleneck for me is I recently remarried, and I've got this.
Congratulations.
Phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you so much. And congratulations to you too.
Thank you.
And I've got this wonderful wife, and our morning ritual is we have coffee together and like a little something awesome, like a tiny little cake. When we were in Japan, it's easy to get tiny little awesome things. Mm-hmm. It's a little harder in the US, but sometimes, or like a chocolate covered macadamia nut with a cup of coffee, and it comes as a set and usually on like a silver platter. Like it's gorgeous. And that's this wonderful us time. And it's amazing how timeless that feels. And yet we're on time for work. Like, I learned a lot from her about how to have this timeless sense of enjoyment while getting a ton of stuff done.
Wow.
Like the morning ritual includes cleaning the entire house every morning. And because it's every morning, it's like 8 minutes. And every morning starts with running the laundry. So no matter what, like I never like, where's my ex? Like everything's clean every day. So just everything goes in the laundry. The button gets pressed as I take the trash out every day when I leave in the morning. Wow. But there's this timeless coffee time, and the whole morning ritual is like an hour and 45 minutes, everything from waking up to leaving, and everything's done. It's awesome. But the coffee we'd have to replace that together. It'd have to be an us decision. And I haven't figured out how to crack that yet.
I see.
And maybe decaf, maybe I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not up to just me.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. That's beautiful. That's so great that you guys share that thing in common. And I think that's very important for relationship building. Is like so. My wife and I have very similar sort of like routines that we just really got into board games lately, and we started playing this 2-player board game called Seven Wonders Duel, and it's freaking obsessed. I am obsessed, and that's like a new thing we're sharing. And I was like, hey, you want to play Seven Wonders? Yeah, let's go play. And she plays video games, I play video games, so it's like one of those things that it really keeps it's the glue. It's the glue to an already amazing relationship, and then you add those layers of like interests on top of it, or routines that you do together. It's like it's so rewarding. It's so beautiful. It's feels so damn lucky. It's like crazy, absolutely crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Farzad.
Thank you so much. I honestly, I'm the luckiest person in the world. I feel that way, to be completely like across many different domains. Do you think that we have free will, or is everything predetermined for us?
I cracked up. I actually lulled. Elon's answer. He was saying my brain says it's predetermined. My heart says we have free will.
Mm-hmm.
I super lulled. I actually think I don't claim to have the decision. This isn't a topic I meditated 8 years on a cave in and came back and said, this is the answer.
Yeah.
Now, there are some topics I have deeply meditated for many years, and I can say I have a very detailed, nuanced, developed opinion, and I think this is the answer from everything that I've observed. This I don't, but my casual belief is it's totally free will.
Yeah, I'm right there with you too. I mean, honestly, like the way I think about it too is like it can't. And I like you, I barely spend any time thinking about it. Like it would be so sad if it's not free will. It would be so sad. I would cry. I would literally like go to like, sleep every night and like cry myself to sleep because it's, man. But I get the other side too. It's like, I don't want to get too deep because I'm going to start giving myself a headache here. But anyway, it's one of those things it's completely crazy.
I love that answer. It's so super human.
Yeah. Right.
Well done. Yeah. Well done, sir.
So as somebody who comes from the agile world, right? And this is one thing that I always ponder myself, but do you view standardization as a good thing? Is that a positive to standardize?
This, I think, is often misunderstood. And this is a concept I'm super passionate about. If something can be standardized, that means it is automated. Humans are not for standardized work. That's not our skill set. That's not our highest use. That's not even respectful. Humans are for creative problem solving. And you can augment human creative problem solving with fast feedback. And that feedback can come from machine learning stacks. In fact, it often does, or even suggestions from generative learning, from robotic learning, exploratory software.
Yep.
But humans are currently still involved in useful creative problem solving. And standard operating procedures, repetitive action is awesome as long as you can change it super quickly when you figure out something better and you're not doing it. A robot or a script is doing it.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That one of the things that when I was at Tesla, the way I view standardization is if you standardize something and it's not automated, you're just losing the ability to innovate. So you're just like kind of removing this variable that says, oh, well, we can't change this thing anymore. It's like, okay, what the hell? So it's like a very much more simplistic view, I think, but I think it carries some weight behind it because you have to innovate, especially if you're a company, you have to innovate. So don't just standardize for the sake of standardization. Like you said it brilliantly, automate. Like that's how you standardize, through automation. So you get it out of the human's hands and put it somewhere that it's optimized to be repeatable at the fastest speed possible with the most accuracy, right? To somebody who has achieved a lot of things, are you able to relax? And how do you think about relaxing?
The best I ever heard this said was Elon in an early interview. I think it was the first, well, not early, a long time ago though. I think it was the first Joe Rogan interview. And Elon was saying, it might have been before that inside Elon's head, there's this never-ending explosion of ideas. And that's about as far as Elon got. And I'd like to add to that. And I suspect this is what Elon would have said if Elon had more time, because my life is exactly the same way. There's this never ending explosion of ideas. And I don't think I'm unique in this. Maybe it's not everyone, but I don't think it's unique. Well, there's the second part of that, this fear that it will stop. So there's an anxiety in that if you relax too much or sleep too long or whatever, that this explosion will pass your grasp. You won't be riding that big bang anymore. And both of those things happen at the same time. So I've got this, it's actually in Apple Notes, this string of business ideas, and they're wonderful. And Musk talks about how Musk has the same thing and they just fly out. That's not the problem. It's execution. So then the next step is, what's the overlap of any of these and execution that I'm willing to do? I mean, you could execute almost anything if it was your one life's goal. And you said, I'm sorry, honey, you might not see me for the next 20, 30, 40 years because this is my thing. Yeah. There's a lot of things people could do. Not everything is worth that, right? So you've got to decide, is one of these that good? Or does one of these overlap the Venn diagram of what can be executed and still maintain the other parts of life that you currently choose, right? Yeah. So you've got that. But then if you don't jump on one of those at least every, I'll say 2.5 years, and throw yourself into it, the worry that I think a lot of people have, I definitely do, is that you will then lose this never-ending explosion of ideas. Wow. So it's almost like a damn it if you do, damn it if you don't kind of thing. You're yeah. No. Okay. You have to do. There is a right answer. The right answer is to execute, and then it's very pleasant once you do, because you're following the flow. And it's weird. Decisions almost make themselves when this happens. You are in a flow. Yeah. And it's I don't think it's predestined. You chose which one to jump in, but then answers unfold to you. When I ran Wikispeed and we set 4 world records, it was extremely high effort. It was effortless. And actually, that experience was as fast or faster than my time at Tesla, but I've never seen that in any other commercially operated company. And I think that's part of why I enjoyed Tesla so much, so deeply, is because I'd had, in some ways, a very similar experience where everything was up to me. I was the owner. So I was involved in every system, so I could recognize a lot quickly. But I don't think it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think it's, you have this wonderful opportunity, but you can't miss that boat. Got it. Or else you would be damned, maybe. Got it. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. Wow. All right. And then the last one for this amazing conversation that spanned, what time is it now? Almost basically 2 hours. Wow. We'll edit it down to just the good stuff. Jeez, it'll end up being like a 3-minute hit reel. No, it's going to be 2 hours. And I'm looking at my list and I'm like, shit, I didn't ask you like half of the questions I had on here. So if you're up for it at some point, I would love a part 2 of this. If you're willing to come back and have another conversation. I'm totally down. Yeah. But are you okay if I bring a list of 20 questions and fire them at you? Please. Yeah. We'll switch them. You freaking fire at me, because I feel like I was like drilling you for stuff. Feel free to drill me for stuff too. But lastly, to wrap this up, what do you think is humanity's purpose? There's a super old statement that truth is beauty, find truth. And that resonates. But there's something else that is good, that is often understood even by large groups of people, And kids understand just action. Like if someone is punished for something they didn't do, children understand that. And in fact, they get really upset. So there's something about that, about justice and right action, that at the child mind level before school is immediately understandable. Like, why are the dolphins all sick? They didn't do anything. What's with the oil and detergent in the water? And like, that's not just. They don't use the word just yet, but like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have an opportunity to try to figure out what is just right action within our means, within our current sphere of influence. And then we have two never-ending opportunities, which is cool. They never end. And one is to increase our sphere of influence and our capability. And the other one is to execute on right and just action within our sphere of influence and responsibility. And that's the game. And it's a super fun game. Then to make it way more simple and wrong, there's this online fake role-playing game called Freebase. And it's on like squidink.com/freebase or something like that. I mean, it was, this is old too. It's like text.
Okay.
Like there's no pictures. And it says, this morning or tomorrow morning, you start playing Freebase. And you're like, okay, what I start, you just told me, who are you, internet?
Mm-hmm.
And it says, what you need to do is burn down your house. Don't wake up anyone in the house. They're playing the game too. They already know. And you're like, what? And then it's like, pick your class. You're a thief, a fighter, or a cleric. And it tells you like what it is. And basically a thief is like, you're a thief. It's like, go break into houses and take their experience points, which are often in the form of like green papers. And you're like, what? And then or their character sheet, sometimes called a driver's license. And you like take them. And then a fighter, and it's like, here's your like starting equipment list. It's like, buy a used car and like a 6-foot length of heavy chain. And you're a fighter. And a cleric, you're basically a drug dealer.
Wow.
And it's this parody. And then like they have this spell for the cleric called flight. And it's the ingredients are all like super powerful mind-altering drugs, and the area effect is the entire sidewalk, and it's like reagents, a 20-story or higher building with an openable window. And
wow.
Like, no, okay, but there's a very useful part of this very wrong and super funny game, Freebase, and it's you can play life like an RPG, and I wouldn't recommend the class thief, fighter, or cleric. But you can play life like an RPG and say, what's the character I resonate with? Can I be that character? What are the attributes? What are the items? What's the inventory that I need to build up to achieve the quest I'm interested in? And people who are interested in playing that game with me are my company, the company I keep.
Yeah.
And people who aren't, I guess they're playing another game, and that's cool. But you actually can super gamify your life and use that to increase your area of influence and the ethical right action that you propagate. And I think doing that without beauty is a missed opportunity, but only chasing beauty, we can see it. It's vapid. There's not substance. It's unsatisfying. It's gross. But just right action in a beautiful way is what software developers can start to call elegance. I'm accomplishing the good thing elegantly. It's easy to maintain. It's easy to understand. It scales. It teaches us something. When we maintain it, we learn. Like it's good. And wouldn't that be a cool way to live a life?
Yeah. Oh my God. Beautifully said. Wow. Inspiring. Joe, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. This 2-hour extravaganza of just beautiful ideas and great conversation. Honestly, thank you so much. I had a complete blast, like we talked about before. I would love to have you on at some point to keep talking through this. We'll work on that open source thing that you talked about before. That would be amazing. But I just really want to thank you for your time, to being so kind. with sharing this time with me to ring in the brand new year 2022. Happy New Year! Very. I hope your family and yourself experience all the joy and prosperity and everything in the world. And I wish you nothing but the best. And thank you so much for being such a great part of the Tesla community. I think you sort of pioneer this. Let's bring people who have experienced it from inside to come out and say what's going on. So I have you to thank for that, and just keep doing your thing. You're a great person, and I'm very excited to continue seeing your journey.
Farzad, you are from the perfect future.
Oh my
Sent
God.
back in time to fix what was wrong about the past. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
See you again, I hope.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, everybody. Take it easy. Bye, Joe.